and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I'm your host, Kendra Corbin, and today I'm joined by Natalie Doyle Oldfield. She is the president of Success Through Trust. She is also the author of the book, The Power of Trust. She's one of the world's top thought leaders in trust, and The Economist has published her as an expert in B2B trust for B2B businesses. That's an impressive resume on its own, Natalie. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kendra. It's great to be here.
I'm super excited to be talking about trust because people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. So trust is a key point in just doing and building business. Can you tell me a little bit about why you picked trust?
Well, I would say not only is it a key point, Kendra, it's everything. How I picked it, though, is I was actually in a marketing role and have done various marketing roles in my career. And while in a marketing role, I was asked to take over the sales role as well. So, while chief marketing officer for a software company, we had a little bit I took over the sales role. And at first I really didn't want to, Kendra, because I was like, oh, it's going to be, you know, it, it's so accountable when you're responsible for customers and responsible for sales. However, I said, okay, I'm doing it. I'll do it. So I did. And then what happened was a crisis in my world anyway. And that was the 2008 crisis hit. And all of our customers, we were in the software business, and it was like software as a service, a lot of repeat business, decided that they were not going to renew. We sold most of our product at that time to the hospitality industry. And with the financial crisis, people don't go to hotels. So, all this to say, I had to figure out how to do sales. And I had never done sales before, or I'd never been responsible for it, but I'd always loved talking to customers. And so, fast forward, I asked everybody that was in sales that was really successful, how do you do this? And a lot of folks just kept saying, well, just focus on the customer, focus on the customers, focus on the relationships. So we did that, and we focused 100% on the relationships. And after a few months, the sales started coming back up. I got so interested in how is it in a B2B environment that customers decide to buy that I actually went back to graduate school and did my master's in communications and looked at and went in to answer the question, like, how is it that we decide to buy? And learned through that research that it all comes down to trust. And yeah, we love to buy from people we know, like, and trust, but it's really trust that drives that decision. It drives our decisions not only to buy, but to invest in or support a company or to decide to work for a company. So I really believe it is the most critical factor. And I get so excited about this that I created a framework based on science and evidence of how it is that we decide to trust using the scientific method. And then I started teaching it and got lots of results. And then when I was teaching it to folks, they would start to get the results. And they would not only build a stronger relationship with a customer, but then there was a positive correlation with loyalty, with continuing to buy products and services, the number of recommendations, customer experience. And so that's why trust. And then it just went from there. Then I founded Success Through Trust. And now I teach people full time in training and coaching how to strengthen and build relationships of trust.
So my husband's uncle is a business owner in central Pennsylvania. And one of the things that he said is it's really not that hard to be a business owner and to have a reasonably successful business. He goes, if you just do what you say you're going to do,
Okay.
because so many businesses don't even do that. And so, yeah, trusting and delivering on what you say you're going to do, I think is huge.
Hmm.
So, talk to me. So, you train people on how to build trust with customers, with prospects. Is that how that works?
Yes, and how to be more trustworthy. So I work with companies to essentially help them be the most trusted in their industry. And I help companies grow their top line by focusing on helping their frontline folks learn how to build unshakable trust with their customers. And we do that so that they get repeat business and referrals all day, every day. And a lot of that is around training. So I really believe that, you can have the best, it's like your husband's uncle said, you can have the best product in the world, you can have the best process in the world. But at the end of the day, it's about the people and it's about the frontline people. And we evaluate their trustworthiness when we're deciding to buy or to do business with them. And, there are a number of things that make up trustworthiness. And, your husband's uncle is about delivering on your promise. And that's certainly a very big part of being trustworthy is doing what you say you're going to do and being reliable. So I do a lot of training uh, to customer facing people, primarily, Kendra. So, a typical company, as an example, I'm working with right now a manufacturing company, and they have a lot of customer facing people, everyone from project managers and account people to estimators and sales engineers. Um, People in shipping, and all of those folks have a part to play in the customer's decision to trust. So this company, as an example, they want to be the most trusted in their entire industry. In fact, their vision is to be North America's most trusted and most respected ABC company. And in their industry. And so they focus on making sure that everybody is customer focused and everyone's looking at the customer experience and thinking about what they do and how they could make it better for the customer. And ultimately, how everybody can build a stronger relationship with the customer. So, yes, I do help companies build trust, but a lot of times, Kendra, they say, "Okay, well, how do we retain customers, or how do we provide an extraordinary customer experience, or how do we get more referrals?" And it all comes down to trust.
So, how do you teach trust or how can people learn to build trust? Because, I mean, I sort of feel like my parents raised me to be a trustworthy person and honest and straightforward. So, what how how do you learn to build trust?
Well, you're fortunate because you had parents that taught you that. However, there are a lot of folks that are never taught that. And there are a lot of technical folks, which I would call technical, Kendra. So people in technical professions like computer scientists or engineers or welders or scientists or accountants. These people are technical in what I would call technical roles. And when they're in school, they don't learn relationship building skills. They learn a technical skill. A lot of healthcare providers are technical as well. And so some people, like I said, they don't learn it at home, they don't learn it in school. And you can learn, it is a skill that you can learn to become more trustworthy. And as I mentioned, I created this framework of how to build relationships of trust. And really, it's about becoming more trustworthy, Kendra. So it's a step-by-step process based on evidence and the scientific method, which means that when you are applying the 8 principles of trust, so that in my framework, the core model is around 8 principles of trust. When you are applying this, you are increasing your trustworthiness with another person. And so, a way we do that, as I'd mentioned, we do training, we do coaching, and we take people through this process that starts with becoming self aware. That's really where it starts, is so that we get an understanding of how our communication and how our behavior is and how it's affecting other people. And then we look at very specific principal areas to build on. A lot of folks that I work with, as an example, I have a group accelerator program. It's a 6-week program, Kendra, where folks come in and they join people it's a group program. So they would join people from other organizations. It's all online, it's all on Zoom. And as I mentioned, the first session, is really in the beginning, it's about self-awareness and creating a customer experience. And then a lot of times folks really want to become better listeners because they realize, oh, this is a skill. And so there is a step-by-step process. And when you apply these principles and learn this process, you can have transformations and become more trustworthy.
Very cool. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So let, let's talk a little bit about your book. So if someone's looking to learn more about trust and how it can help build, manage, and protect their company, right?
Yeah.
Um, the power of trust. Talk to me a little bit about your book and what they can find in it.
Well, my book, The Power of Trust: How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, was written for business owners and leaders and up and coming leaders who want to deepen relationships and really get a how to. So you can find it on Amazon, and it has it's very practical, Kendra. So it's got a lot of case studies, tips, checklists in here. And I really wrote it so that you could open it any one section. This is a section on case study, and read that, and then maybe open another section, and then there's a checklist. Or open another section, and here's another case study. So you can find that on Amazon, and in there are lots of case studies and checklists so you can apply it to your business, because trust is an individual thing, and we all have to apply it in a way that feels authentic and sincere to us. So,
So if my listeners were to do one thing, if
mhm.
they were to do one thing that you could share with them to start being more trustworthy or behaving in a more trustworthy manner that builds relationships and trust, what's that one thing that you would recommend they do?
I would suggest that they learn and apply one of the 8 principles of trust. So, they could start with acting in the best interest of others. So, when we think about what's most important to the other person that we're trying to build a relationship with, or strengthen a relationship with, or quite honestly, Kendra, protect a relationship, when we act in the best interests of others and we are motivated to serve them, to help them, that builds trustworthiness. I had a young man, an engineer, in my trusted advisor, trusted leader program last year, and he was an up and coming person in his company. So they placed him in the accelerator program really to give him some new skills, and they really wanted him to be more client facing. And when we started the program, he said, I don't really know why I'm here. And he said, I'm a great communicator. And he was, Kendra. He said, I'm a great listener. He said, I I deliver on my promise. People know I'm committed to the company. But on his team and in the people in the organization, they were like, there's just something, we don't know what it is about him. We just don't trust him. And the 8 principles of trust and my model are ways that we can actually assess, not we can assess someone's trustworthiness. And really where the crux of it for him was, he was not always acting in the best interest of the team or the company or his colleagues. He was more focused on himself. And so that was just a very big eye opener for him. And for your listeners, I would say when you are building or, in a relationship with someone, think of the other person, because there is nothing that can show your integrity and your trustworthiness more than acting in the other person's best interest.
Okay, so I'm going to take that even further and just say, don't even, not a person, but I want you to think about when you're creating emails or social media
Yes,
posts. Any type of content or communication should always be thinking about your audience first. Yes,
100%.
many of us are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and we only get paid if someone buys our stuff. But when you're creating the content that you give out for free, I want you thinking about what's in their best interest.
Yeah.
How can you add value and give them that information? If you have a prospecting call and they're not the right fit, I get it's hard to sometimes to say no to business. Say no because nobody's going to be happy. It's in
Yes.
their best interest to turn it down. It's also usually in your best interest to turn it down if
Yeah.
that's a thing like that. But
Yeah.
again, putting the other person first is a huge opportunity for all of us, I think,
Yes.
to really keep that in mind. I always talk about understand your customer, right to one person. I feel like I'm banging a drum, right?
But
That
it's also true, Kendra.
it is.
And when you're writing to that one person, think about, how can I best serve them? Does this matter to them? Is it valuable? Is this going to help them? And when we do that, you're going to connect with the other person. And that shows that you're acting in their best interest. So
I
really
want to
glad you
even take
added
it.
that.
I want to take it even further and use an example of somebody that didn't do it and went bankrupt. Anybody remember Kodak?
Yeah.
So Kodak, huge company. If any
Mhm.
people are listening that do not know about Kodak, then I'm sorry, you're probably too young for this podcast. But they invented the first digital camera, but it was going to negatively affect their film business. So they hid it away and they no longer exist anymore. And
Yeah.
they were one of the country's largest, most long-standing companies in existence.
Mhm.
But they weren't thinking about people's best interests and how to move it forward. Could you imagine if they came out with digital cameras and what they could have done with their company and how they could have evolved?
Yeah.
The same thing happened with Google and AI. People talk about ChatGPT. Google had a version of ChatGPT long before ChatGPT did, but they felt that they were looking out in people's best interest because they didn't feel we were trustworthy enough as a society to have that much power and to have that much information. And I think they were a little bit concerned that it was going to negatively affect their search income because people were going to start using chatbots for searches. And they are. So it is a real concern. But again, thinking in the best interest of others, I can give you I can probably give another 50 examples of companies that have gone out of business because they didn't do that. They were being selfish and thinking only of themselves.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is Johnson and Johnson back during the Tylenol scandal. So
Yes.
when I was little, this was in my history books because we'll just pretend I'm not little. When I was little, Johnson and Johnson did a major recall
That's right.
because there were a couple of tainted Tylenol bottles. And it turned out that it wasn't like a major widespread thing. It was really just a couple of bottles. But their first action was to protect their customers. So they did a
That's right.
massive recall before recalls were a thing, thinking about the safety and well-being of their customers.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that example up. So all your examples are wonderful. And you know what, Kendra, we probably could talk all day long. So that's actually a case study in my book. And in addition to thinking about their customers, what I would like to add to your great example is not, they were also thinking about the industry, right? And so they developed, I guess is the right word, new safety measures, and they were the ones that brought in, the seal on the top of the bottle, and then the safety measures on the cap, and then the more packaging, and shared that with the entire industry. So not only were they thinking of the best interests of their customers, but also the whole industry. So, at the end of the day, and I'm sure you talk about this in your companies, we're writing, as you mentioned, for one person. We are communicating with people. Companies and people put their trust in people. And so when you think about building trust with a company, we actually put the trust in the people in that company. It all comes down to the people. And that's why Johnson and Johnson, is such a great example, because they were doing it for the customers, the wholesalers, the whole industry making all these changes. So it's a great example, Kendra. Love it.
I love that story because I just think it's so it's really truly living brand values, and I don't think enough people really truly live their brand values as a company. So I think trust is a hugely important topic. Again, think about how you can be building trust and thinking about others. Before I let you go, Natalie, I
Mhm.
do want to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests because this show is
Yes.
called Imperfect Marketing. Marketing is anything but a perfect science. What has been your biggest marketing lesson learned?
Well, I've learned so many lessons, and it is an imperfect science, which is why I love the name of your podcast. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned, and I've done a lot of different roles in marketing, and now, I started Success Through Trust 11 years ago, and now, I'm doing different kind of marketing. I would say the most important and the most valuable lesson that I have learned is that the people in your organization are your most valuable asset. And the relationships that you have with your customers are critical. To peel that back a little bit, the people in your organization, they are the ambassadors. It's not, as I said, about the product. It's not about the process. It's about how the people in your organization are communicating, how they're behaving, and how they're serving your clients. And when when the people are focused on the customer or the client or the subscriber, whatever it is you call them, but when your people are focused on the customer and they're focused on delighting them and strengthening relationships with them in each and every interaction, you're going to win. Trust is a leading indicator of success. And that the biggest lesson, it's really truly is about the people, and they can learn to build relationships of trust. It's a skill. You can learn it. That's what I would say it is. And, you know, if I had one more sentence, I would say marketing is all about relationships. And full stop, period. It's about relationships. So the people inside are your biggest asset to build those. It's not just one person or the people that do the digital or the emails or the podcasts. It's the relationships that everybody has with the customers.
Yes, I agree 100%. Marketing is 100% relationships.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. I mean, that's what it is. And that's the content that you deliver and the value you deliver. So I think that that's hugely valuable. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope you all learned something today. And if you did, it would really help me out if you would rate and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. I hope to see you on another episode of Imperfect Marketing. And if you want to connect with Natalie, of course, as usual, we'll have some links to connect with her in the show notes. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.